Hi everyone, and welcome to the lecture video, What is Unobtrusive Research? Unobtrusive research means that the research data collection process does not affect any social interactions. This means that the researcher in this situation either does not work with human subjects directly at all, or if so, the researcher will be a complete observer. If human subjects are involved in unobtrusive research, then they likely might not even know that they are being studied. There are three types of unobtrusive research that we typically use in criminal justice research: secondary data analysis, content analysis, and geographic information systems. Now, so far in this course, we've talked about primary research analysis, which is done when the researchers themselves collect their data and analyze it. Secondary data analysis, on the other hand, occurs when you use someone else's data to answer your own research questions. So secondary data analysis does not require you to collect your own data. Researchers doing secondary data analysis will use the data to answer new research questions, or will use new analysis techniques to answer existing research questions. The primary advantage of secondary data analysis relates to time and money. Because the data has been collected by someone else, secondary data analysis is much faster than primary data analysis. It also requires a lot less resources, even for very large data sets, because you're simply using someone else's data, they've already collected it, and analyzing it yourself. Another advantage of secondary data analysis is that it's often done using public use data. This means that the data has been stripped of all identifying information, so the data set is completely anonymous. Because de-identified data sets lack any way to violate a subject's privacy, research using public use data is usually exempt from IRB review. Content analysis is the study of recorded communications. You can study anything that people create in a written or visual form, including artwork, newspapers, television shows, movies, legal documents, bulletin boards, etc. Content analysis is really helpful for looking how an event or behavior is being described, as well as who is describing the event or behavior. For example, content analysis is used extensively in criminal justice to examine perceptions. We know that media plays an important role in shaping how we view certain people, events, or behaviors. So researchers in criminal justice often focus on how the media depicts certain aspects of the criminal justice system. For example, one area of media portrayals that has been a focus of criminal justice research relates to the differences in media coverage of offenders, victims, and law enforcement professionals by race. A study I found particularly interesting was a content analysis of introductory textbooks for CJ classes over time, highlighted on this slide. The authors examined the racial composition of the photographs in the textbook that depicted criminal justice personnel and offenders. They note that in a period of 17 years, the introductory textbooks continued to have predominantly white males portrayed as criminal justice personnel, and minorities are more commonly portrayed as offenders rather than criminal justice employees. This type of visual disparity, particularly given the educational aspects of these textbooks, could potentially contribute to a continued bias against minority populations in our criminal justice system. Content analysis isn't just useful for written content, though. Remember that content analysis can analyze videos, photographs, captions, and more. Research into behaviors online, including what we post on social media, comments on news articles, and the influence of social media on our perceptions and our attitudes are also very growing areas of research that typically use content analysis in their methodologies. Content analysis has a lot of advantages as a data analysis technique. First, the only people involved in the research are the researchers, so everything is done on the researcher's timeline. If you want to analyze data at 2 a.m., you can. All you need is your book, your movie, your video game, your internet connection, whatever. Now try doing that with an interview and your subjects will not be very happy with you. Content analysis is also previously recorded data or content, so it's often easier to reproduce reliably. As long as your analysis plan is clearly explained, anyone should be able to come behind you, code your data in the same way, and come to the same conclusions. Content analysis can also be done using qualitative or quantitative instruments, or a mixture of both, so it's a good way to increase the internal validity of your study as well. Finally, content analysis may not require interaction with human subjects, so you may not be required to go through an IRB ethics review. For example, the study I just talked about used textbooks as the data, so there was no human subjects in need of protection for the study. Finally, Geographic Information Systems, or GIS. GIS uses spatial data, meaning data that has geographic coordinates in it, along with any other information of interest. The goal of GIS software programs is to allow for analysis of data not only between variables of interest, but also across geographic locations. GIS is used in multiple fields, but their particular application to criminal justice is often through crime mapping. GIS allows law enforcement members to identify high crime areas, to map where different types of crime occur most often, and to analyze the deployment patterns of law enforcement officers, amongst other things. For example, the map on this slide is an example of a hotspot policing map, identifying current hotspots in the community that the police department will then target for additional resources, intervention, and officer deployment. You do have the opportunity to take a GIS course through our geography program here. In this course, you'll learn how to use GIS software and will complete mapping projects of your own. I highly encourage any of you with an interest in this topic to consider taking this geography course. Given the increased use of crime mapping software in criminal justice agencies, having experience with GIS software is a huge bonus for those of you who are going out on the job market soon. All right, well, that concludes our lecture on what is unobtrusive research. Thanks for watching, everyone.